G'day folks, what is going on? It's Jacob coming at you with another video. Hope you're all doing very, very well today. In this one, it's gonna be a short one. I wanna give you a really, really simple pricing tweak that you can use in your coaching or course business that should really increase your sales conversion, okay? And this is one that we'll deploy from time to time. We don't use it all the time. It's gotta be the right situation. And it creates some very, very quick I'm-ins or yes, let's do it, whatever. So typically when I look at other people's offers, one of the problems is that they're making it too hard for people to say yes. Okay, there's a risk imbalance, right? They're asking the prospect to take on too much of the risk, and they're not taking on enough themselves. And this risk balance can shift as your credibility grows. Okay, so as you become more in demand, right, and your need for any one individual client goes down, you can increase your ask and I guess put more responsibility back on the purchaser. But especially early on, right? That's not to say you have to do that, right? Like if you want to deploy these strategies to make it easier for people to say yes, that's pretty advantageous. But as a general rule, as your brand grows, you've got the capacity to do that because you've got more authority, more credibility, all that kind of stuff. But if you're earlier on and you're finding you're getting static when it comes to presenting your offers, it's probably because it's too hard for them to say yes, right? It's too hard for them to sit there and go, yeah, that's for me. That's what I want to do. And I can see how that works for me. And it's a no-brainer. Okay. So this little pricing tweak will really help with that. All right. Before we jump into it, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, check out that first link in the description. If you're into content like this and you sell courses or coaching or consulting, that first link is going to take you over. You can enter your details and I'll send you a video where I walk through the framework that we take our clients through that's all built around writing 200 to 500 words of content per day for your audience in order to move them along the customer journey and sell stuff that's anywhere from $2,000 to $25,000 so that you can ultimately build your info business up to that $50,000 to $100,000 per month mark. Okay, so if that's of interest to you, check out that first link in the description. All right, so let's jump into this pricing one. So most people follow the usual framework of like 997 or 4,997. They just look at what everybody else is doing. Okay, so as an overarching piece of advice when it comes to pricing, stop doing that. Start pricing it in your own unique way, right? Like we use a lot of round numbers. I used to do the whole 7 thing, but now we mostly just price in round numbers for our main evergreen things. If I roll out like a little launch, we might use a slightly different number, but you don't have to just follow the 997 thing. The reason that was effective initially is because it was unique and different, not necessarily because it was a 7. There might be some psychology behind it, but I think the effectiveness of it is a law of diminishing returns when everybody's just using the same thing. And I think it automatically has a counterproductive effect because they just then put you in the same bucket as everybody else. Okay, so that's an overarching pricing piece of advice, is start pricing things in your own way, right? But this one in particular, okay, so let's say you've got a $5,000 coaching offer or a $10,000 coaching offer, right? Something that's a bit chunkier. If you're getting static on that, you need to make it easier for people to say yes. Okay, so let's assume all else is fine, no other changes. What you should consider doing is what I call it's a quasi-performance model. So it's partial performance. A pure performance model would be pay me nothing, and when you get X result, then pay me dollars, right? And that can work as an agency model. For coaching, there's going to be people out there going, well, why can't you just do it for free and then I'll pay you later? And the reality is that they're not going to do the work, right? You might have 1 or 2 unicorns out of 1,000 who'll actually fucking do something. But the reality is they're simply not going to do it. They have no skin in the game. They have no reason to pay attention to you. They have no reason to listen to your advice because there's nothing at risk for them, okay? So for coaching, I wouldn't recommend going to a full performance model. Can work for an agency where you've got more control and you can kind of grab the business by the neck and really drive it forward, but not so much in a coaching capacity, because you need to be able to influence your clients, right? You need to be able to influence them to take certain actions, to change certain beliefs. And if they've got no skin in the game, they just aren't going to be as responsive to you and to your advice as if they've paid you money, and a lot of money. Okay. It's just the way that it is. We pay more attention if we've paid more money. Okay. You can choose to agree with that or ignore it, but having worked with, over 1,000 people via courses and coaching and all that kind of stuff, it's 100% true. The easiest people for me to give advice to are the people that have paid me the most. The hardest are the ones that have paid the least. They just don't want to listen. They want to argue. They want to bitch and moan and complain. It's just the way that it is. And so I wouldn't recommend going to a full performance model, but what you can use is this kind of quasi-performance model where you're kind of meeting them halfway. All right. So if you've got a 5K offer that maybe was selling and has stopped selling, or you're trying to move the first few units of it, consider splitting that price down the middle and saying to your prospect, look, what I'll do is let's do 2,500 now and 2,500 after you hit X result. Okay. Whatever the main hook of your program is. All right. That's going to very, very quickly make it much easier for people to say yes for two reasons. One, the upfront commitment is now half of what it was. And two, they can see you taking on more of the risk, right? Because now you're meeting each other halfway and you're taking half and they're taking half. Slight little ninja hack here is if you want to take on slightly more, even if it's like 2,400 versus 2,600, that's going to have a slight little psychological edge because they're getting to delay a bigger portion of the investment. Okay, now what this may mean as you grow is that you may want to increase the overall investment so that you are still receiving a bit more on the front end. So your 5K offer might become a 7K offer where you get 3.5 now and 3.5 later, right? You can adjust the overall pricing if you decide to deploy this strategy, but I would recommend giving that a go. Then you're still getting upfront cash flow. You work with people for the duration. They've still got skin in the game. And then when they hit that goal, they come back and pay you. Okay, now you are opening yourself up here to the risk that one, they don't come back and pay you. Two, they don't do the work and therefore don't get the result, in which case you need to be comfortable with how much you are charging on the front end. Okay, so that's why I'm saying you may need to increase the overall pricing so that you are comfortable with the cash flow that you're receiving in the event that they don't come back and pay you at the end of it, right? Basically what I'm saying is you can't depend on that second payment. You need to be able to run the business on the front end one, right? And then back end payment for the people that achieve the results is obviously great, but you need to adjust your pricing accordingly in order to use this model. Okay, it's just a really, really simple and subtle tweak that can make it easier for people to say yes. Okay, just make sure you consider the implications on your own business, on your own profitability, and adjust your overall pricing accordingly. But it's a great way to make it easier for people to say yes to your offer. Okay, that's a big, big, big challenge that people run into when their offer starts struggling. Is it's just too hard for people to say yes. They're reading it and they're like, how can I say yes to this? Okay, little bonus tip while we're on the train of offer creation is in a lot of offers that I see, people are really heavily focused on future benefit. And what I mean by that is achieve X outcome, which is fine. But one thing you might want to play around with is what's the inverse of that? Okay, so if that's what they're ultimately trying to achieve, what's the present pain that they've got that's holding them back from achieving that? And you might want to play around with that in your content, and you might want to play around with that in your offer presentation or talking about that on your calls, because pain is going to move people a lot faster than a future gain. Okay, it's just the way that we're wired. It's the way that we work. We can feel that pain right now as we sit here today. But talking about how things will be in the future when you achieve X, Y, and Z, we can kind of see it in our mind's eye, and it'll be nice to have, but we haven't experienced it. We haven't lived it. So it's not as real. Whereas with the pain, we're living with that now. So if you narrow in on, what's the pain that's holding them from that achieving that future outcome, and weave that more into your content and your offers, that's probably going to bump them along as well. If you combine those two, making it easier to say yes on the pricing and really getting in touch with what are the pains that they're going through, I think you're going to see a big, big, big jump in your offer conversions. Okay, hopefully you got something out of that one. Be sure to check out that first link in the description if you're interested in how we go about building information businesses to 50 to 100K a month, writing 200 to 500 words per day to our audience. Check out that first link in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Cheers.